Hello Medina, this is my feedback to your evidence paragraph from last week. We missed you today in our small group tutorial. I hope you're okay. Let me just say that what I'm seeing here shows me that you've understood the task quite well. You wrote this before you even saw a model paragraph, and you still grasped the ideas very well. So this is a good sign. Next week we'll have more practice. There is another model coming up on Monday, so that should give you an even better idea of what you need to do. So let's just go straight into this paragraph now. Supporting idea you chose: diversity programs are thinly veiled internships just to skirt around the law of employment. Okay, and then that's the supporting idea. Now in the exam you would also have to, of course, that'll be your identification paragraph, in which you will include the supporting idea and also the evidence that the speaker uses, right? So let's see. And of course, in the exam, you will also have to write a continuous paragraph, not just 3 sections, but everything should be combined in one flowing paragraph. Okay, because he only talks about only Oracle internships, and those are related to the IT field. Sure, he only talks about that, and he gives a few other examples of other programs, other opportunities, but for the most part these are very limited. You are right that it's not sufficient. The evidence, I'm not sure what you mean by the evidence he provides is not accurate. What evidence? You have to say exactly what evidence you're referring to. Now, but I would agree with your conclusion that the evidence he provided, you cannot conclude from that those internships are illegal. I absolutely agree with that, and that's one of the reasons why I would say that in particular he was showing basically an excerpt of the legal code and it wasn't even an excerpt of the code itself. It was actually a legal document, but that was a lawyer who wrote a response to an inquiry about whether interns are considered employees of a company. And so the speaker in that video just chose an excerpt from that lawyer's letter and passed it off as the legal code. And in that letter, the lawyer says that if in certain situations an intern can be considered an employee of a company, but in other situations they cannot. So, and why is this important? Well, this is important because if an intern, and obviously we're talking about internships here, if an intern is considered an employee, then it would not be legal to hire them based on restrictions, based on gender, race, or whatever. So in that case, those internships would be illegal. But the whole issue is, is the intern considered an employee or not? And that lawyer in that letter does not conclude that an intern is an employee. He just basically describes all the factors that would depend on which the decision would depend. The decision whether the intern is an employee or not. And he says in some cases he may be or she may be an employee, in other cases they're not an employee. But the speaker makes it look like they're always an employee. And so it would be illegal then to hire them based on race, gender, and so forth. So I would say that evidence that he provides, that excerpt from the legal code, which is not even an excerpt, it's more like a from the code, it was more like an excerpt from a letter of a lawyer, is not relevant because it's talking about something else. It's talking about the fact that an intern is not always an employee, and the speaker makes it look like they are an employee. Anyways, in the exam, if you encounter a source that speakers use, you may want to look it up just to check that the source is actually saying what the speaker claims that the source is saying. In this case, it isn't. So it would be a very nice little sentence or two that can be added to your description. In this case, I would put that in the relevance. But you're right, this evidence is not sufficient. Now, another thing which you've done well here, you've included what the speaker should have said. The speaker should have added or should have included specific evidence and documents which show that it is illegal and so forth. Now, as far as more countries, I don't think he needs to include documents from other countries because his whole argument is about America. He's talking about the US and diversity programs across the US. So he doesn't need more countries, but he definitely needs other internships, even as you say, other Oracle internships. That's maybe Oracle is not always discriminatory. So that's good. I like this response. Relevance. It looks relevant because the speaker, it links to the idea that companies select some of their interns based on restrictions along the lines of gender and race. And those documents that he shows, they are relevant. Okay, so I will agree with this. But of course, if you wanted to dig very deep, you could add, it is relevant in that respect, but in another sense, it is not relevant. It's not relevant because the evidence of the legal code that he uses what he uses is actually a response to a request by a lawyer who does not claim what the speaker claims, and in that sense it's not relevant. So you could add to this. You could say it's somewhat relevant. This part is relevant, but the other part isn't. So you could actually say that. Okay, and finally, is it representative? I like your response here. Basically, representativeness, you've understood this correctly, is about how typical is the example given by the speaker. And in this case, who is to say that those internships and all those things that he shows are actually representative of all diversity programs in America, of all internships in America, right? As you say here, it's necessary to look at data, I would not say from other countries, but data which shows the opposite, that internship programs are not discriminatory. How about a random selection, a random sample of internship advertisements? You take a sample of, I don't know, 500 or something, and then you make a study and you include, and then you try and figure out how many of those are really discriminatory. So that would be a nice kind of thing to look at. So here we could expand a little bit, but your idea is generally good. Now here this video is too flashy, I would agree with you, but we don't need that for the evidence paragraph. So overall, Madina, you've done quite well here. You could definitely use this as a good starting point for a very nice paragraph. There will be more opportunity to practice next week, and just keep up the good work. I would say add a little bit here and there because you have 200 words. Dig deeper if you need to dig deeper, and you should be in good shape. But you've generally understood the task very well. Okay, good luck.